Hello friends and enemies. I just wanted to make a short video to show how I main Sethos, just to show him some appreciation and love. My build isn't perfect, and I think he's the only one in these teams which has 5 level 20 artifacts, so there's a lot of room of improvement here. But I still want to show my progress and how I learned to play him. So let's begin with some basics about Sethos. He's a 4-star electro bow user, and his abilities works with energy. This means he can either use his burst to infuse his normal attacks with electro and converting them to charge attacks, or he can use his charge attacks consuming energy to make more damage. This means we can use our energy on two different ways, which enables two playstyles. We can shoot few buffed charge attacks, or use our burst and make multiple normal charge attacks. This makes this character very interesting to play and also very fun in my opinion. And he's also relatively easily to build, since his one of his best bows is a 3-star bow, and his artifact is Wanderer's Troop, which is also very easy to get by doing weekly missions. So let's talk about Sethos' famous charge attacks. As already told, Sethos can use his energy to make stronger charge shots, but the energy also helps to accelerate the charging process. He has two different charge phases, and depending the charging phase he does different kind of damage. The first one only uses attack stat, and the second uses the attack and the elemental mastery stat. So depending on the build, you only want to do the completely charged charge attack, which also has another name, the Shadow Piercing Shot, and is buffed by other passives and constellations. Here is the passive which I talked about, which reduces the charging time of Sethos, and it's noticeably that you only consume the half of the energy if you are using the first phase charge attack. So it is quite useful, for example in the overworld, if you want to finish off a low health enemy and you don't want to ruin your next rotation, or just want to save some energy. You can do a charged first phase charged attack and keep the half of the energy for the next phase, which means you can use more charge shots since you are using that much energy. So, but when do we know when we use the first and the second phase charge shot? Well, you can hear it. If you use the second phase charge shot, you hear some kind of bell, don't know, which means that you are charged. If you only use the first charge shot, you only hear some kind of sling. So let's try it. One shot, second shot, third shot. And we see we are full empty. So we can shoot 3 times with full charged shots, and we are out of energy. And now we can see exactly when we shoot different kind of arrows. Hear it? The normal charge attack is obviously normal. Now we have a phase 1, and something very unique is Sethos is the only male bow user who uses two kinds of bow holding techniques. For the first one shots, he uses he holds his bow horizontally, but if he uses his special second phase charge attack, he holds it vertically. So if you see he holds his bow vertically, you know it is a first phase charge attack, and if he holds it vertically, you know you can shoot your second phase charge attack. So, something I forgot to mention about the standard attacks. When you have your fully charged shadow piercing shot, you can't move. So I can move the camera, but I can move my Sethos. So to make this more clear, I can walk, but in the moment I charge it up, I stand still. So this is something you have to keep in mind when you are playing him, because in the moment you got the charge attack, you have to shoot it or to leave the state, because otherwise you will get hit, and since he doesn't have a lot of defense or HP, he can die very quickly. So it's a weird nerf. No other bow user has, so it's quite weird, but well, we have to live with it and play around it. So now I want to talk about some special traits about his charge attack and his shadow piercing shot. The shadow piercing shot pierces enemies, which is great for enemy crowds, but it also has some kind of AoE damage around the arrow, so you can hit enemies easier. So a lot of times I aim between the heads of two enemies and hit both of them anyway, because of the AoE range. And now I show you one clip where I messed up trying to finishing an enemy with low health with not a piercing, not a shadow piercing shot, but a normal charge attack. So that was the last enemy, and I wanted to use my free shadow piercing shot. And as you see, I was very close at the enemy and missed it because of the hitbox. And normally it wouldn't have been a problem, but here, because I used an aimed charge shot instead of a shadow piercing shot, I didn't have the AoE and missed completely the enemy. So Oz got the killing blow. So I talked a lot about his charge attacks, but now I will talk about his normal attacks. He makes a 3 attack combo with 4 arrows, but the last one is very delayed. So to optimize our burst duration, we want to make some animation cancelling. So we only attack twice and move a little bit forward to cancel the third attack. That's called a wall cancel. You could also dash, but it seems slower and you waste stamina, so wall cancels are more efficient. So let's discuss his elemental skill. It's quite simple. He dashes backwards, dealing some AoE damage and generating particles. And that's something we want to do. So if you saw it, we have here some AoE area, and we want make some reactions for his passives. So we always want to be near an enemy when we do that. And that's the practical thing about his skill. If we dash backwards and forwards again, we see we have almost the same distance backwards and forward dashing. So it's very practical. For example, if we have an enemy right here in the middle, we can attack, or we can make our normal standard attack combo. Then we see our skill is available, or we need energy recharge or whatever. So we can attack from distance, dash forward, and instantly activate the skill. And now we are again on the same spot, so roughly, and we can keep alive and keep our distance. Yeah, it don't work well without an actual enemy, but you see where I'm going with it. So it's quite nice. Also, if you are surrounded by enemies, you can also evade them. So I like this skill very much. But something negative about it, we have some invincible frames by dashing, so we can evade attacks easier. We don't have them with the skill. So if some enemy is attacking you and you try to evade with the skill, it often hits you anyway, and you take damage. So you have to be careful with it. What works anyway is if you have some kind of AoE enemy attack, which is marked in the floor. So you see the attack coming and you can evade it, but you have to keep the distance in mind. Sometimes I miscalculate the distance and get hit anyways, but yeah, that's the skill. So, two other things about this skill. If you're on the overboard and are on some tiny platforms like this branch for example, and you want to use your skill, don't worry, you won't fall off the platform. The skill keeps you very well on this branch, so you don't have to be afraid falling off the cliff or something by playing your rotation. And the second thing I want... Okay, this is embarrassing. But it's quite convenient actually, because now I have any energy, and that's something good in this case. We have a secondary effect. We don't just get we don't just deal electro damage, we also get energy back, and this energy isn't in form from particles. We got 2 particles by the way, but we got 12 points of energy in case we are dealing an electro-based reaction. So that's important to know if you make your rotation. Maybe in the first rotation, if in the abyss where you are full energy, isn't that important. But in every other case, we want the enemy having some kind of aura. In this case, we see enemies with Hydra aura, so we can get energy in form from this passive effect, 12 energy, and 2 electro particles. So we see we got instant some bit of energy back, and later with the 2 particles we got another bunch of energy back. We already have I think 2/3, and now we should be full again. Yes. So he isn't that energy hungry as you could think, because he can regenerate his energy quite well. So let us talk about his burst. In his burst he converts his normal attacks with dusk bolts, which pierce through enemies and deal electro damage. It's important to differentiate it also with the shadow piercing shots. The dusk bolts scales just with elemental mastery, the shadow piercing shots with attack and elemental mastery. So if we have a build with more electro mastery, we can benefit more from the burst playstyle than with the charge attack playstyle. So let's see it on action. So we can activate the burst. Now we deal electro damage, and in any case we had two enemies, we could see it burst through the enemy. And obviously we have this normal auto attack, similar to the standard attack as well. So let's talk about his constellations. As you see, I have all 6 of them, which is quite nice. And I will talk about my experiences with every one of them. So let us begin with the constellation 1, and 15% critical ratio increase on his shadow piercing shots. It's a quite good, nice to have constellation, because it's really just a nice to have. You will build anyway on crit, but I think it's very appreciated. We get an increasing crit rate by the shadow piercing shot, because as I already told, the second passive makes a 700% EM shadow piercing shot, so we hit 4 times maximum very hard. So we have high dealing damage, but only a few times. So we are interested to guarantee a crit, and then crit rate increase is very welcoming here, because obviously we can hit the crit easier. So yeah, a very good, nice to have, but nothing more, to be honest. Now we come to the second constellation. In my opinion, the best one. We got 2 times 15% electro damage bonus, which is quite nice. Because he because Sethos has different kind of triggers to get this bonus, and all of the triggers will happen anyway, regardless which kind of playstyle you play. The first one is you use your shadow piercing shot, which consumes energy. Assuming you play the charge attack playstyle, you will do that anyway, so it's a no-brainer. The second one is you will use your skill to generate some kind of reaction, which is always something you always want to do regardless of the playstyle. You could miss the enemy if it moves fast, so maybe it isn't guaranteed you got this, but I assume you have the interest that this hit the enemy anyway, so I assume you got a 30%. And the last one is by activating the burst, which means every attack of the burst will be buffed with this 30% electro damage bonus. It's also lasts for 10 seconds, which is okay, since your shadow, since your charge attack playstyle is in the normal case a very short time window, and the burst lasts for 8 seconds. So you have 2 seconds to do your skill and reactivate it again. So yeah, it's a very nice constellation, because you get 30% electro damage bonus, and that's something very appreciated, especially if you have some aggravate teams. His third constellation is an talent increase from his normal attacks. It's okay. It isn't that important because it's practical use. You only buff your first one attack at first level 1 charge attack, because the charge attacks we want to use are the shadow piercing shots, the 4 of them I mentioned with the second passive. And sure, you could use your energy you collected in the meantime to do more damage, but in the normal case you will swipe to another character, generate more particles, or have some kind of buffing. So with the practical use you almost never use that one. The fourth constellation, it's a nice one again. In case you hit 2 enemies with a single shadow piercing shot or dusk bolt, you got an party-wide buff of 10 seconds, increasing the elemental mastery with 80 points, which is nice because, as already told, in case you play an aggravate team, elemental mastery is always appreciated. But since Sethos in general plays with a lot of reaction-based teams, I assume that all your team will be happy to get some elemental mastery buff. The problem is if you only fight one enemy, because you at least need 2, so otherwise you don't get the bonus. And yeah, that's the negative point about it. And also it isn't always easy to hit 2 enemies with your burst attack, so your dusk bolt. But C6 enable makes it easier. I will come to it later. But yeah, it's also very nice to have, but it isn't very reliable. Good, now we came to the Constellation 5. It increases the burst. Well, yeah, it's very appreciated because I mainly play the burst playstyle. And yeah, it means more damage. Now we come to the last constellation. I consider the second one the best one, but I consider the Sex personally as my favorite constellation, because you get an shadow piercing arrow for free. So what does it mean? Every time, or to be more precise, the first time you hit an enemy with your shadow piercing shot and you lose energy, so you activate your passive, your second passive, you will get the energy you used back. So in case you have a full burst, you will consume 20 energy, but after you hit your enemy, you will get instantly these 20 energy back. So practical use, it means in the case we play the charge attack playstyle, we have a free shadow piercing shot and 3 normal ones. So we have 4 shadow piercing shots, which means we can use perfectly all or buffed 700% EM buffed shadow piercing shots without getting energy during our active time, which is quite nice. And again, it comes back exactly like the second passive after 15 seconds, which means you see your hourglass, and the Constellation 6 visual clue is this golden outline. So you probably don't see it if you have Sethos. You will only see the purple hourglass, but the outline is exclusive to that C6. And I can prove that. That is the free one. So I will shoot these two enemies. The outline is gone, but I have still my full energy. And now it's gone. I still have the buff. Now the buff disappears. And now it's back again. And we have again the outline, so we can use it again. We still haven't used any energy, and we still done the damage. So it's very useful, especially if you using Sethos for the exploration and ran out of energy without some kind of battery. You can always have a free shot. And you can also use it for other playstyles. For the burst, for example, you can use it as opener and then using your burst, which also means you already triggered the both triggers for his electro damage buff, which doesn't care, but it gives you the freedom to do the skill later during your burst rotation, or the possibility to miss it and also get the 30% buff. And another nice thing about the free shot is these two enemies. I already said it's difficult to hit two enemies with the Dusk Bolt, but if you have a free shadow piercing shot, you can use you can aim to align two enemies, shoot it with that, get the EM buff, and then use your burst, and you still get the EM buff without having to worry to hit two enemies with the Dusk Bolt. So it's a very nice constellation, worthy of a C6, and yeah, these were his constellations. So let's talk about artifacts. I'm using the Wanderer Troop artifact set because since both the Shadow Piercing Shot and the Dusk Bolt count as charge attacks, we can support both playstyles with the same kind of sets. Both of them scale with Elemental Mastery, so we have interest to increase it with the second piece bonus, and we also deal charge attacks with our bow, so we are interested as well in the 4-piece bonus. You could also use Thundering Fury for the electro damage bonus, and also because since we already making some reactions, since Sethos teams always rely on reactions, we can decrease the cooldown of his skill, which could be useful for the charge attack playstyle to generate more shots. Not necessarily the 700 elemental mastery shots, because we only have 4 of them and a 15-second cooldown. But here's one of the use cases where you can use your level 1 charge attacks in during the time you're waiting your second passive buff cooldown is over. So yeah, it could be fun. I didn't have good artifacts on Thundering Fury, but if you want to try it and already have some artifacts, some leveled artifacts, you can try it. So my build, my artifacts are mostly crit, EM, and energy recharge, and few attack. And for the main sets, I have elemental mastery, electro damage bonus, and critical damage. You can also have here critical rate, depending how good your substats are. But yeah, if you have a look to my stats, the crit ratio could be way better. But well, it's sufficient for my utility, and in my opinion I have way too much energy recharge. But well, that's my build and it's sufficient. I also have 516 EM, and particularly when building our teams we want to buff these stats: elemental mastery for more damage, crit never is never not welcome, ER depending how much you really need. If you have Fischl or another electro battery, it's mostly okay having 100 or 120, and obviously electro damage bonus, for example Kaswa. So let's talk about weapons. As already mentioned, one of his best weapons is the 3-star bow slingshot, just because he has a very good passive feature. It increases the damage of standard and charge attacks by 60%, as long as they hit in 0.3 seconds after they are shot. Since Sethos arrows are very fast and almost instant, it's almost every time the case, especially since he plays in the mid range. So yeah, it's almost guaranteed 60% damage increase by charge attacks. Since he scales mostly with elemental mastery, he doesn't care about the low base attack stat, and obviously the crit ratio is appreciated. So yeah, it's a very good weapon and I have no better right now. Other honorable mention is, for example, Favonius bow, in case you need more energy recharge, which I recommend especially if you are using the charge attack playstyle. Since we already have high crit, or we want high crit, we can almost guarantee to get the energy particles, and especially with refinement 5 with just a second cooldown, we can generate a lot of energy, which makes probably very fun shooting, especially the first level charge attacks. So yeah, I think it could be a fun build to having the Favonius bow and the Thundering Fury set, playing the charge attack playstyle. So another honorable mention is the Cloudforge. It came right after Sethos or before it in an event, and it's very clearly made with Sethos in mind. His substat is elemental mastery, and it increases the elemental mastery if the user decreases his energy. So that's something Sethos do with his attacks. So yeah, it's made with him in mind, but as I already told, slingshot it's still better. It's kind of sad since I like the look of the Cloudforge and I leveled up to level 90, but well, it is like this. The best weapon in game is another one that I don't have sadly. It's Tainari's bow. Hunter's Path. Well, yeah, it is here. I will put an image here, and it's practically the slingshot, but in better. Instead of 60% bonus for charge attacks, we got 116%, and we got a 12% bonus for elemental damage. So these are two things Sethos really appreciate. So yeah, I hope to get this weapon someday, but it's just slightly attack boost, so slingshot is completely fine. I also recently heard about that the weapon of Chaska is also good on him. I couldn't believe it at first, because when I read the passives when it came out, I didn't think it could fit Sethos very well, but it actually do. So we have his high crit damage bonus, similar to the weapon of Lini, which is less than Yelan, which is a bow I have and also tried out. But Yelan's bow increases the damage just for 20%. Yes, exactly. And also increases the HP, which isn't very useful for Sethos. But something, and Lini's weapon increases the damage, the attack, if we only use Electro characters, which obviously Lini always went Pyro characters. But since we want different characters, we can use the passive effects of Aqua Simulacra or Lini's weapon, so we didn't really care about them. But Chaska's weapon is better with his passives, because we can use his critical damage. And although we can't do swirl damage, because I interpreted that we have to deal the swirl damage and not some teammate, but since we don't care very much about the attack, we can skip it. But since we always have one or two characters from different elements, in our case Dendro and Animo, or Dendro and Shilonen would be Geo, we can trigger the secondary passive effect, which would increase our charge attacks and our elemental damage, which would be two things we want to increase. And I have to do the math for it, but it seems that it really could work for Sethos as well, which makes me very happy, since it's much easier to get this bow than Hunter's Path, since it isn't the standard banner, but Tainari is, so I have to wait to Chronicle Wishes. So yeah, maybe I will pull for Chaska's bow the next time. But yeah, I will try to do the calculations and show you my results. So I made some calculations, and apparently, as you see here, Slingshot and Hunter's Path are very similar. In their charge attack playstyle, even a little bit better, but you have to be cautious about this line here, which is the average, which is calculated depending on the crit ratio. So obviously the Hunter's Path has 10% more crit ratio, so obviously it's always slightly higher. And because we have here a lot of damage, it seems bigger than it is, but if we see here on crit, Slingshot only has 644k with a 7 hit combo, which is very optimistic, but well. And here we have 648 with Hunter's Path, so it is greater, and also the average 575k and 532k. So yeah, Hunter's Path is better, although it seems here very close. and I'm not sure if that's true. I tried to replicate the numbers in the game, but as I said, the model is very optimistic, so Slingshot isn't always that good. But yeah, it seems that the Astra Vulture's Crimson Plumage is a very nice name, by the way. It seems that it's better than Hunter's Path and Slingshot, which surprised me, but could be, depending on the elemental mastery, which the bonus of Hunter's Path is based off. So yeah, these numbers are made with Kirara, Sucrose, Sethos, and Fischl team. So maybe if I invest more in elemental mastery with Nida, and well, yeah, Sucrose as well, I may better with Hunter's Path, but I tried to make a model which I could replicate, and yeah, right now I doesn't have Nida, so I did the numbers with what I have. And I also made here the distribution of the damage. Even in the burst playstyle, the Shadow Piercing Shot does a lot of damage. And as already said, 7 hits is quite optimistic. But yeah, and here I have the charge attack, which is always the same, because I try to have always the crit. So yeah, and we have through the C1 15% more crit ratio, so it's always quite the same. And sadly, the Cloud Weaver still isn't good, but I tried. And I also choose an rotation, which kind of triggers both passives from Cloud Weaver. So I tried to make it good, but even then it's not good enough. Yeah, so I will try to pull for Chaska's bow next time. But I still can't believe Hunter's Path isn't that good, because it's always the bow all people tell about you. So yeah, until I have some numbers in the game, I will stay with these calculations. So, but how should we build Sethos? Something very nice about him is that he has the same kind of things you want, regardless of his playstyle. For example, we can use Wanderer's Troop because we are interested in elemental mastery, and also on the charge attacks, because since his charge attacks, so his shadow piercing shots are considered charge attacks, but also his bursts are considered charge attacks. We don't care about normal attacks, and we can go all in with the same kind of bonuses. And then he has some important stats, for example elemental mastery, since his burst deals almost so around 400% elemental mastery damage. His shadow piercing shots also are scaled with elemental mastery, and obviously his passive with 700% elemental mastery. So elemental mastery is his most important offensive stat. Attack only plays a little role in his piercing shots damage, 200, almost 300%. Yeah, 297% at level 13, and to be honest. So it's more important to focus on elemental mastery than an attack, but yeah, it isn't wasted potential, but I wouldn't use Sethos with Bennett because his attack boost isn't that important. Then we have critical values. Since his best teams are aggregate teams, and Aggravate doesn't deal some separate reaction damage similar to Overload. Aggravate deals some kind of bonus to his normal to his base attack calculations. So crit has some value to aggravate damage, so we want also a high crit rate. Well, not crit rate, a crit value. So a good relation between crit rate and crit damage. Obviously, since we play a lot with the energy, we want to have enough energy to burst or to get enough piercing shots. So we want also some kind of energy, but especially with fisherless battery, it isn't that necessary to have so much energy. Even with my 126, I think I have too much, but it depends on your team, so yeah. And obviously, since all our attacks are electro damage, we also want to have some electro damage bonus. And yeah. So obviously we want boost these stats, and we can do it by ourselves with artifacts, weapons, but also with our teammates. So which teammates can we use? As already mentioned, I use Fischl as battery. She's that good because of her second passive. Every time some teammate makes an attack, Fischl also do some electro damage, which causes obviously some kind of reaction, or just damage is good as well. Especially with the electro resonance. Every time we deal some electro-related reaction, we get some electro particles, which is very good for Sethos since he wants energy. Another electro sub-DPS I can recommend is Aurora, because of his second passive. It's the same if your active figure deals some standard charge or plunge attacks. They will get 3 points of energy back, so he's even more battery than Fischl. And similar to Fischl, he deals some inactive damage if you dealing some overcharged or night soul points damage. So it isn't very optimal to Sethos, but he works with him in overcharged teams. So I can recommend him as well, since I played some of these teams and it worked. Jansan, I tried to play with Jansan, but since I have to walk cancel, I think, okay, Jansan could work, but it barely works. You have to dash cancel a lot instead of walk canceling, so it isn't as optimal or good, but it can work. I tried to use Dory, but I can't recommend her. She also regenerates energy, but her sub DPS isn't good enough. So yeah, Fischl and Aurora are my definitive recommendations. I tried to Bido as well for her shield, but it didn't work.
If you ever want to trade tactic.
So then I came to the other supports. I always use some kind of an emo support. Sucrose is very good because of her elemental mastery increases 50 points, and later, depending on your elemental mastery, 20% of that. So assuming you max out her elemental mastery and got around 1000 elemental mastery, you could get 200 elemental mastery bonus, which is which is the same bonus you get from C2 Kazuha. So I think doing the math, Sucrose is the best support for Sethos in elemental mastery bonus, and at C6 you also get some elemental damage bonus, also 20%. But yeah, I don't have C6 sucrose. I just started to build her, so normally I use Kazuha. Because also his passive, his second passive here, he increases the elemental master, the damage bonus by 0.04% of her elemental mastery, and I think my Kazuha does some 26% elemental mastery damage bonus. I'm not sure. But yeah, I would recommend using Kazuha or Sucrose. Other Anemo support, I don't think there are many options. Okay, Hisu could work, but he's more... Well, it could work in a charge attack playstyle, since he also has a very short time window. For Sayu could also work. But well, I'm not the biggest fan of healing by Sethos, because when he gets hit, he often dies because of his low HP. Venti could also work with his grouping, which benefits Sethos a lot. The last one Anemo support I recommend would be Lanyan. When she first came out, I instantly thought, okay, I will build her for Sethos. And also her here. Her C4 also boosts elemental mastery by 60%, which is nice. And also she's a shielder, so it worked, and she can hold VV, which also is very good. Since it increases the it decreases the resistance about your elements, and since we only swirl Electro in our great teams, it's perfect. Now let's talk about the Dendro support. The ones I most recommend would be Nida. She deals a lot of Dendro damage, and also have some kind of elemental mastery bonus up to 250 points, which would be insane. Also by 1000 elemental mastery, but yeah. Then other good options would be, for example, Kirara, because he also is a shielder, but in my opinion she's not that good unless you have I think it's C4 exactly, because she doesn't deal a lot of damage unless she's on C4, and also she gets some elemental damage bonus on C6. So yeah, I used her a bit and I built her, but I still waiting to get more constellations, so it works better. Beisu could work as well, very good. He has also a shield, but it's a very weak shield, so Sethos died a lot with Beisu. Because I already said I'm not the best fan of healer on his teams, because even Beisu is a healer. When Sethos gets hit, even with his shield, he died multiple times. So I didn't have time to heal him, because he died anyways into hits. Then Emily. I tried to use Emily since I really love her, but she is in Flames character, and it just didn't work so good. Yao Yao, I just got her. so I didn't get time to build her. In my opinion, it could work as well, but since she wants some time while she can run or just be active in the field, I am not the biggest fan of her. But yeah, it could work also very good in the charge playstyle. And then Kole and Dainari. I like Dainari in the charged playstyle. But yeah, I think that all my Dendro characters I know about. I never played Sethos with Kole, but it could work. But yeah, I prefer Dainari. He has some kind of taunt effect, which is nice because Sethos doesn't need necessarily a shielder if somebody taunt. That's also the reason why I like Auroran a lot, because of the taunt effect. And yeah. Obviously you could also use Shilonen instead of your Anemo support, because she also shreds resistance and buffs his damage bonus. But I generally prefer Anemo supports because of the grouping they can provide. And yeah, some niche teams could be the overcharged teams. I played with Furina, but as I already said, Sethos has very low HP, so Sethos died a lot with Furina. Obviously the Lector support in overcharged team would be Auroran. Another option would be Yelan or Shinsho. In the burst playstyle, in the charged attack playstyle, I wouldn't recommend them. Then you need Furina or Kokomi. But I don't have Kokomi, so I couldn't really play that team because I always died because of Furina. So I already talked about the weapons you can use for Sethos, but now let's talk about the weapons for his teammates. We have this one, which increases the attack, but since we don't really care about the attack, we don't really need it. It's a nice to have, but I prefer equipping some other kind of weapons. Usually you can equip this weapon for Sucrose, but I think there are better ones. Then we have Sapling Blade. I like to use it with Kirara or the Dendro Traveler. It generates some leaf after dealing some reaction with Dendro. Since we're playing aggravated teams, it will generate this leaf, which increases at refinement 5 the elemental mastery by 80. So it's a nice bonus to deal more damage. We have the same effect with other Aranara weapons. But I think we don't have really a support spear which affects Sethos, so I can skip. Then we have obviously Favonius weapons, so yeah, we have a Favonius spear as well. It's nice when teammates generate white particles, so these are always nice to have. The Hakushin ring could also work. Yeah. Then we have the bows, again, Favonius bow, it's nice to have. Swords, Freedom Sword would be amazing, since it increases the attack of the charge, standard attacks, and plunge attacks from the whole party. So it's amazing, especially if you're using Kazuha anyway. In case you use Shilonen, you could also use Shilonen Sword, which increases the element damage bonus. So it's very nice as well. Again, we have spears. Naida's weapon is also very good because Naida increases the elemental mastery anyway, so she profits from the element mastery she gets from her weapon. Then obviously Venti's weapon. I use it with Auroran or Fischl when I can. But it doesn't do much for Sethos, but since you always want an Electro outfield character, it's nice to have. So, now I'll show you my rotation. I play mostly an aggregate team. In this case I will show you my burst playstyle rotation. I play Sethos with the slingshot, the Dendro Traveler with the sapling blade on C6, just to mention it. So we get some elemental damage bonus. Fischl with Venti's bow, so we get some elemental mastery. Menkaswa instead of Sucrose, because Menkaswa is better leveled and I in general prefer him. With the Iron Sting, just because I don't have a better weapon for him. So, important to mention, I have C6, so depending if you have C6 or not, you can deal a free piercing shadow shot. So I will show you my rotation with the free with C6 and without it. So, in general, my strategy is to begin with Electro. But it's very important not to begin with Sethos instead of some kinds of emergency, because first of all, to get the energy from his skill, we want to deal some Electro reaction, so we don't want to start with it. And the other reason, we play an aggregate team, and to deal some aggregate reactions, we first have to trigger the quicken reaction. And the quick reaction works, we deal some electro damage and later dendro damage. It could be also be otherwise, first dendro and then electro, and then the enemy get quickened. But the reaction doesn't deal any kind of damage, but instead, after we hit a quickened enemy with dendro or electro, the base attack of the electro or dendro attack gets some buff. So basically the spread and the aggregate multiplier. So we want to get the buffed attacks with Sethos and not to trigger quicken with Sethos, and in the worst case waste a lot of DPS potential. So my strategy is to begin with Fischl. Normally I begin with Oz, but you also could use her normal charge attack to deal Electro. Then you can switch to your Dendro or an ammo unit. I prefer switching to Kazuha and do the skill, so we can swirl Electro and also infuse our swirl with Electro to deal more Electro damage. Then I use the skill for my element recharge, and then I change to the Traveler. Also use his burst for creating this Lotus. And in the best case, the Lotus also get infused with Electro, which means the frequency of the Dendro attacks get faster. And then when we have the swirl, Oz, and the Dendro application, the off-field Dendro application to be more precise, now I switch to Sethos and do my rotation. So the main difference between the rotation with C6 and without it would be I begin with my free shadow piercing shot. In case we have multiple enemies, I align to hit both of them. So assuming these both fireplaces are enemies, I try to hit both. So to activate the C4 and get elemental mastery bonus for the whole team. But it isn't always necessary or possible. Then I have two options. I can trigger the burst, and then I already accomplished my two triggers for the C2 and got the 30% 30% electro damage bonus. And then I can start doing my rotation with the welcome cancels. And in this time later I can deal the skill to regenerate energy. But out of convenience I do it before, because now it come my rotation without C6. I did the same with my other teammates, but when I switched to Sethos I didn't deal the shadow piercing shot because it wasn't free. Then I had to begin with the skill.
Give me some space.
Just to get the first trigger of my C2 and then activate the burst. So during the burst I also had a 30% damage bonus, but not necessarily more damage at the beginning because of the free shadow piercing shot. You could doing a first level shot attack. It worked because it only consumes half of the energy, so 10 points of energy, and by doing your skill you get 12 12 points of energy back. So that works, but it isn't very reliable, and sometimes I missed the time window and I had to wait doing normal attacks just to get enough energy to activate my burst. But in the meantime the Lotus disappeared, Oz obviously disappeared, and I didn't have the burst from Kazuha anymore. So I don't recommend it until you have C6 to make some extra attack, unless you have some other kind of units which actually work with this strategy. But yeah, that's my strategy with Sethos, and you are free to try other variations, but for me it worked that way very good. So let's try it out. I begin with Visual. Actually with the charge attack. I wait a little, so now I'm doing the burst.
The birds call. Wind strider.
Electroline.
Scatter. Way ahead of you. Glory to Al Akbar.
Ah, here is the cute.
Shadow Raven.
Misjudged the regeneration time for us. Now I have the skill available.
Move or be moved. Wind strider. Spring forth. Scatter.
By royal decree.
Way ahead of you.
So,
Whoa. By the sage's wisdom.
where are you?
Excuse me.
Okay, it wasn't the best rotation because he also disappeared a lot, but you get the idea. And I did some miscalculations. For example, Oz came back way too early for my experience, so I could I didn't have to use Visual's burst that early, but it worked. It's not as tragic. Then I could use some more elemental recharge for Kazuha because I couldn't trigger the burst twice in my rotation. The Dendro Traveler worked good enough, but yeah. Yeah, so it worked. And now I will try to show you my rotation without C6. So now I will show you my rotation without my free piercing shot. I changed the weapon from Kazuha to the Favonius blade to get more energy. So it isn't a fair comparison damage wise, but it isn't important. I just wanted to show you my rotation. And yeah, let's begin. Well, because first I will mention something. I said you have to do your skill before, and you don't have the free shadow piercing shot. And obviously you could first activate your burst and then do your skill, so you get your energy back. But I don't like to do it because of this reason. We lose too much time during your burst, so you did less dusk bolts. So you have to see if your team handles that energy loss or not.
Something's going on over there.
I tried
go
it
check it
before.
out.
The
Early bird gets
recording
the worm.
with this kind of without it. It had some energy problems. That's the reason why I changed the weapon from Kaswa. But yeah, let's see how it works now. I will begin again with the charge shot from Official. So then with Kaswa,
Fallen
make
leaves,
the skill.
adorn my night. Spring forth.
Then I with Oz. Then I got the. Okay, I forgot about the. Okay, sorry guys, I forgot.
Way ahead of you.
I did the
Move to
charge
Al
attack.
Akbar.
But so it's the same damage, it's just. Well, yeah, I messed up, guys. Sorry. I'll try to generate some
By royal
energy.
decree.
And I will start with Oz, to be honest. I don't have enough time to do the charge shot. So,
Oz,
now,
Clouds high. The birds
well.
call.
Color. Don't get.
Excuse me. Move or be moved.
Okay, now wasn't attack of the enemy, wasn't optimal, but well.
Give me some space. Time to go.
in support by royal decree.
Well, yeah. You saw my rotation. I don't care anymore. I just want to get some energy back for further
Wind
attempts.
strider.
So now I will show you my preferred charge attack
Let's
playstyle.
go gather some samples.
And I like to use Tainari because you also have a very short active time during the field. And I think the rest of the team can stay as it is. And the idea is we do the same. We activate Oz, Kasua, and then before we change to Sethos,
And shroud.
I do some charge attacks with Tainari, and as you see I have 3 shots and his time is already finished. But I can continue with Sethos, dealing my charge attack damage. Yeah, and just for info, Tainari isn't built really. I just gave him the old artifacts from Sethos, similar to a little brother who gets the stuff from his older siblings. But yeah, it worked for the exploration and for the story in Sumeru. So yeah. As already mentioned, I mostly use my burst attack rotation, but yeah, the rotation should work similarly. So I start with Official.
Oz,
Fallen leaves.
Kasua.
Adorn my night. Wind strider. One with the forest. I hear everything.
Something
What a
positive
drag.
about Tainari is
Way
you
ahead.
can
Midnight Phantasm.
you can deal your skill
And shroud.
and switch out to Sethos, for example. And okay, now he died obviously. And then go back to Tainari and deal the other shots from him. Something
Time to go.
Sethos can't do. If he switches out of the field, he lost his abilities.
Give me some space.
But yeah, I think that's the price for being a 4-star. So you see, he has 2 shots left,
Excuse me?
and I can switch to Sethos, not back to Tainari, and he still have his 2 short shots.
One with the forest.
Okay, But yeah, what I wanted to mention is the reason why I leveled both talents, charge attacks and burst attacks, is because I like to actively switch in the middle of the fight between the two playstyles. So I don't play just the burst playstyle. It's my main playstyle, but I also use the charge attack playstyle if it's more convenient. Because with the aiming charge attack playstyle, we can obviously handle groups of enemies better because we can align and hit more of them. The task shot just attacks the nearest enemy, and depending how we stand, we doesn't even hit other enemies, although we have piercing shots, which is sad. And obviously I don't always use Tainari, but other good thing about Tainari's ability to have his 3 shots and switch is, for example, if Oz has to be
Oz, reveal
reactivated,
thyself.
or we need in general more energy, more electro or energy, we can
Give me some space.
deal some other electro damage or also Kazuha, then go back to Tainari. In this case we
Enshroud.
extended our time, but he has some more flexibility, which isn't always the case. But if we see, for example, this enemy, I hate it, but in a specific time of his rotation, we have to deal a lot of elemental application, and when we have to do that, it's more convenient to do our charge attacks, especially if our burst attack isn't full, so our energy isn't full. So we have to adapt our playstyle and use the charge attack playstyle, for example. And yet that's something I wanted to mention. Although you can prefer one of the both playstyles, it's nice to have the other one. For example, the burst playstyle does more DPS mathematically. So if you have some weakened state, for example, a lot of enemies have them,
A little ambiance.
for example, to charge up some
Teamwork
kind
is
of
dreamwork.
Clouds high. The birds call.
state. Now it's weakened state, and you have to deal as much damage possible. And you already have Dendrop off-field Dendrop application, maybe Oz and VV activated. It is more convenient to do maybe your burst, or in the same situation, when the weakened state is just too short to do your whole rotation, you can also shoot your 4 shadow piercing shots, deal a lot of damage, and continue with the burst rotation after it's regenerated again to activate the weakened state again. So it's really depends of the enemy, but the possibility to change your playstyle if necessary is something very fun about Sethos, where you have really to think fast, change your strategy, and it's very fun in my opinion. And yeah, I also have some niche teams. For example, in my story teams, I used Layla because I like her. Or some explorations, I use Mika because I thought it would be fun to do some superconduct teams, which doesn't work very well. But since all kind of reaction get buffed, it was actually playable. And obviously the overcharged reaction with Yelan and Aurora was also fun. So if the situation allows it, you can play also different kind of reaction teams. I also played some overcharge team with Chevreuse, I think Mawika and Jansan. But later I exchanged Jansa for Aurora, right? Because you don't necessarily need overcharged reactions if you have Mawika, which deals electro-aligned sub DPS pyro damage, also Nightsoul aligned. You can also trigger the passive from Auroron, so it kind of worked. But I didn't generate as much fighting spirit, battle spirit. I forgot how it's called in English. To activate the burst of my Wicca every rotation. So it isn't optimal, but it was playable and was kind of fun. So yeah, I invite you to experiment around with different teams. Especially since overcharge reaction is my favorite reaction for my TCG team. I recently got into it. I don't know why, but I have an overcharged Sethos team and it makes fun. Yeah, I don't know. I think Sethos is very fun to play depending how you want to use him. But yeah, Aggregate is his best team because of the mat alone. But yeah, he isn't just limited to that. But yeah, some other kind of playstyle annotations I have. You have to be cautious about cryo application on your character, because cryo makes your attacks slower. I forgot how much percent, I think 15 or 20. And this can mess up with your timing. So you make your wall cancels, but they are slowed down by 15 or 20%, I forgot. And I have some fights where, because my muscle memory does the attack as always, I just miscalculated my timing and did the third attack combo, which also make me lose time. So you have to be cautious about it. There aren't very much enemies which hit me with cryo that much, but there are still some enemies I always cautious about. At last, I wanted to show you one of my successful overcharge teams. This was the event from some versions earlier, and we had to fight pairs of strong enemies. I was obligated to pick Yelan, and I experimented a little with different teams. Neither was available for every player, that's why I have her. And as you see, it's a Hyperbloom team. Neither does some off-field Dendro application, and I use Yelan's burst to apply Hydro with my burst attacks. And Auroron is here my battery, and also since he synergized good with Overcharged, also a nice support. And something positive about fighting pairs of the same enemy is that my Dusk Bolts actually hit the other target, since both are big. So I think you saw it right now. I hit both enemies with my Dusk Bolts, something I only can hope happens in other domains or overworld. This was the most difficult difficulty setting in this level, and I'm just happy I could made it with Sethos and beat my high score.